In 2017, I started off my channel with a series of videos covering every supernatural creature featured in MTV's version of Teen Wolf called Creatures of Teen Wolf. Those videos are very old and are pretty bad in retrospect, so today I'm going to be starting the remake of my Creatures of Teen Wolf series, which will feature better narration, simplified explanations, better flow throughout the duration of the videos, and overall better, higher quality production. Of course, it wouldn't be a Creatures of Teen Wolf reboot without starting off with the most famous and titular creature of the show, the werewolf. We're going to be talking about Teen Wolf's werewolves in today's video. This will be the definitive video on YouTube about the werewolves from this franchise. No other video will ever be as detailed and in-depth as this, along with the other Creatures of Teen Wolf episodes. There will be in total 21 videos with potentially a bonus episode in this series, ending with the remake of the Werewolves Explained video from back in 2020. So when all the episodes are out and released, I would suggest going through these in chronological order, as I will be covering every creature to appear from the order in which they appear in the show. This video will combine elements from all my previous Werewolves Explained videos, adding everything we know from the series and the movie, making this the definitive guide to Teen Wolf's werewolves, as mentioned before, and the only video you will ever need to watch on YouTube. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new to the channel and watching me for the first time, I hope that after this video, I'll earn a subscription from you. I appreciate everyone who watches these videos, as they mean a lot to me personally. So with that all said and established, let's make one final return to Beacon Hills and delve into the mysterious world that is the Creatures of Teen Wolf. First introduced in the series premiere of MTV's Teen Wolf on June 5th, 2011, and making one final appearance in 2023's Teen Wolf the movie, werewolves are the primary supernatural species featured in the franchise. They are half human, half wolf shapeshifters who have the ability to transform from an ordinary human appearance to a partially lupine form. That includes glowing eyes, which can either be gold, blue, or red depending on the rank or other determining factors, pointed ears, mutton chops, claws and fangs, and rigid brows. In rare cases such as Scott McCall, Derek Hale, Talia Hale, Peter Hale, and Sebastian Valet, werewolves can also have such advanced shape-shifting abilities that they can turn into actual real wolves or can transform into a huge, monstrous bipedal wolfman. Along with shape-shifting, all werewolves possess superhuman strength, speed, agility, healing, and senses, among other incredible powers and abilities. In Teen Wolf's supernatural community, being a werewolf is considered a gift. However, it is a gift that comes with a cost. Because a werewolf's powers are derived from the moon, the full moon will cause their abilities and emotions to be heightened to the point that many lose control of themselves, which can cause death and destruction if not properly controlled. All newly turned werewolves need to be trained in order to resist the urges that the full moon forces upon them, which will allow them to remain in their human form unless it's absolutely necessary to change. There are several known ways to become a werewolf. The two most recurring and common ways are being born a werewolf or being bitten by an alpha werewolf. In incredibly rare occasions, the claws of an alpha can turn a human into a werewolf if they scratch a human deep enough, though it is considered less effective than the bite. Myths in universe have also stated that drinking rainwater from the paw print of a wolf can change a human into a lycanthrope, a method proved to be successful when Sebastian Valet achieved his ascension to being a werewolf. Children of werewolves have also been known to be born completely human, and in many cases, the bite has actually killed their human recipients rather than transform them into werewolves, as seen with Paige in the season 3 flashbacks featured in the episode Visionary. Also, in one known case, a daughter of a werewolf, Malia Tate, inherited her mother's were-coyote heritage rather than that of her father, Peter Hale's werewolf heritage, and in other cases, several former humans who were turned by an alpha werewolf have become other kinds of shapeshifters, which I'll obviously be covering later in the series, such as a Kanema in Jackson Whittemore's case, and a were-jaguar in the case of Kate Argent. Other shapeshifter species can also become hybrids. Teen Wolf News came up with a super complicated name, not official and made up by him alone, Malformed, which is just his way of avoiding what he should be actually calling the creature, a hybrid point blank, through the bite of a werewolf or through other means as Jackson Whittemore and the Nogitsune. They also retain certain aspects of their initial shapeshifter form, in Jackson's case, the Kanema, and in the Nogitsune's case, Void Kitsune. A werewolf is strongest when in a pack with one alpha, who is the pack leader, and at least 3 beta werewolves in total, which constitutes a basic pack. In most cases, there is usually a defined hierarchy within the pack, and the alpha draws power from their betas and vice versa, which makes them stronger, more mature, and more effective in battle. Werewolves without a pack are known as omegas, who are generally regarded as weaker and easier to defeat and or kill than betas and their alpha peers, who have packs to back them up, though this is not always the case. An omega could be the sole surviving member of a pack that was decimated, a former alpha who has been abandoned by his betas, or a beta abandoned or kicked out of their former pack, or in the rarest of cases are lone wolves purely by choice, which as stated by Gerard is
certainly not a wise choice.
There are enough werewolves in existence that the community even has its own culture, which includes legends and folktales passed down through generations, mystical rituals for certain events, and societal protocols for how to deal with intense situations, such as how to respond to the death of one of their fellow packmates. Little is known about the birth of the werewolf species, though Gerard Argent theorized that the first werewolf was supposedly Lycaon from Greek mythology, along with his 50 sons. According to the legend, Gerard told Scott McCall and Allison Argent, Lycaon, who was among the Greeks who worshipped the Titans rather than the gods of Olympus, invited Zeus to a feast at his home, where he attempted to trick him into eating human flesh. Zeus was so enraged by this prank that he cursed Lycaon and his sons by turning them into wolves. From there, Lycaon and his sons sought out the Druids, as they were rumored to have a gift for shape-shifting, and Lycaon hoped that they could help them undo the curse. Though the Druids were unable to remove the curse, they were able to help Lycaon and his sons shift back and forth from human form to werewolf form. Due to their assistance, some Druids elected to work with werewolf packs, helping them maintain their humanity and guiding them through their lives as lycanthropes, which led them to become emissaries. It is unknown if this theorized origin is actually true or if it is simply a work of fiction, but regardless, Druid emissaries continue to act as advisors to alphas and their packs in universe to this day, though in most cases only the alpha knows who the emissary is. Those who are known to be or have formerly been emissaries to werewolf packs are Alan Deaton, formerly the emissary to the Hell Pack and the current emissary to the McCall Pack, Maureen Morell, Deucalion's original pack, and then the Alpha Pack, and then lastly Jennifer Blake Colley's original pack. In the mid 18th century, the most famous monstrous werewolf in history, the Beast of Gévaudan, Sebastian Vallet, began to ravage France, speculated to have killed anywhere from 100 to 500 people before it was finally slayed by a human villager, Marie Jeanne Vallet, his sister, who eventually became the progenitor of the Argent line of werewolf hunters. One of the most well-known werewolf families is the Hale family, whose bloodline is known to go back several centuries. Their most notable alpha was Talia Hale, who possessed the rare ability to shapeshift into a true wolf, being a trait only held by those with the evolved werewolf status, a trait that was also inherited by her eldest daughter, Laura, who had inherited her alpha spark upon Talia's death and was also an evolved werewolf, due to us seeing her real wolf form in early season 1 when Scott and Styles are searching for her buried body at the Hell House, and her only son Derek, who managed to evolve to full shift, also becoming an evolved werewolf despite only being a beta at the time. There is a relatively strong culture among the international community of werewolves, particularly those who are born into the species, which for most includes the belief that their lycanthropy binds them all together as a family. For this reason, peaceful packs often see each other as siblings regardless of their blood ties, and older, more experienced werewolves tend to take it upon themselves to protect and teach those who are recently turned how to adapt to their new lives. For example, Derek Hale told Scott McCall that they were now brothers after Scott had been bitten by Peter Hale, and Scott McCall repeated the sentiment to Liam Dunbar after Scott had inadvertently given him the bite. In a similar vein, the sight of the dozens of werewolves from Satomi Ido's pack who had all been killed by a modified form of canine distemperament brought the typically unemotional Derek Hale to tears out of sadness for the loss of so many fellow werewolves. Despite the camaraderie between werewolves of all bloodlines, they are still a predatory species, and battles among and within the packs for either political or territorial reasons are not uncommon. This was evidenced by the conflict between the Alpha Pack and the allied Hale and McCall packs, in which the Alphas attempted to convince Derek and Scott to join them. However, alliances between packs to fend off a common enemy is also a frequent occurrence, particularly when it involves werewolf hunters. For example, the Hale pack, Deucalion's original pack, Ennis's original pack, and Kali's original pack all gathered in Beacon Hills to determine how they would react to the Argent Hunter family going after the werewolves in the region in the early 2000s. Because of the threat the werewolves face from the werewolf hunters, all werewolves are trained to know what to do if they are confronted by hunters: fight their way out, hide somewhere away from the rest of the pack so as to not lure the hunters to their den, and heal. This puts enormous pressure on the individuals in the werewolf community to do everything possible to learn control over their transformations so they don't risk exposing themselves to the human population and hunters alike. There are several rituals used by werewolves that are unique to their species that can be used for various effects. One is a memory manipulation ritual that is typically only performed by alphas due to the amount of control and experience necessary to do it without paralyzing or killing the person whose memories are being accessed. To perform the ritual, the alpha, or in some rare cases, an especially experienced beta or a part-werewolf chimera, stabs the back of the target's neck with their claws, piercing their spinal cord and making a metaphysical connection to their minds. In most cases, this ritual is used to search through a person's memories and see specific events so that the werewolf performing the ritual can experience a particular memory through the target's eyes, especially in cases where the target has been through a trauma and cannot reliably recall what happened on their own, or when their true memories have been mystically manipulated in some way. As in the case with Isaac Leahy after he had been attacked by Deucalion and Kali, this can also work in reverse as well, with the werewolf performing the ritual to share their own memories with the target, such as when Peter Hale shared his memories of the Hell House fire with Scott. Some especially skilled alphas can also use this ability to suppress or entirely remove memories, such as when Talia removed her brother Peter's memories of his daughter Malia Tate's existence, or when Talia removed the memories of the Nematon's location in both Derek and Peter to ensure they would never return to the powerful tree. Because of the amount of risk involved, this ritual, regardless of their intent, is usually performed on supernatural creatures with healing abilities who can recover from the damage much more quickly than regular humans. However, the ritual has on several occasions been done to banshees, though in Lydia Martin's case, this caused her to become temporarily catatonic, since the person who performed it on her was an inexperienced chimera who did not perform the ritual correctly. Another ritual, which unlike the previous ritual can only be performed by alphas, is one that can transfer their alpha spark to a dying beta in order to heal them, at the cost of their own alpha powers. When performed, the alpha absorbs the beta's pain to the point that the ill beta absorbs the alpha's extra spark of power, allowing them to enhance their pre-existing healing factor to a high enough level that they can overcome their illness or injury. This ritual has only been demonstrated once in the series, when Derek gave up his alpha powers to heal his younger sister Cora from the mistletoe poisoning inflicted upon her by Jennifer Blake. It is possible this ritual can also be used to involuntarily transfer at an alpha's power to another beta in a similar method to a king or queen abdicating their throne, though this is yet to be confirmed in canon and probably never will be, given the fact that Jeff Davis has stated he is done with this iteration of Teen Wolf post Teen Wolf the movie, as referenced in Teen Wolf News' interview with Jeff Davis from May 2024.
It's done.
Yes, Teen Wolf is done.
All signs point to the final death of the Teen Wolf universe. It had a great run, 100 episodes during the sunset years of the cable television original series boom. Then a revival of sorts with a streaming movie meant to draw attention to a brand new streaming platform called Paramount Plus.
They made a deal for 3 movies, but it doesn't look like it's going to benefit anyone to make another movie. So yeah, it's going to be pretty hard.
Finally, there is one last ritual that can allow a werewolf to communicate with the spirit of a deceased werewolf, though this is a risky ritual that is not commonly done. To do this, a werewolf needs the claws of the deceased werewolf in question, along with another werewolf who is willing to push the claws into their cuticles to act as the conduit. The assisting werewolf will then pierce the back of the other werewolf's neck with the claws of the deceased in a modified form of the memory sharing ritual, which will mystically form a connection with the deceased spirit inside the main werewolf's mind. Derek performed this ritual with Peter Hale's assistance and Talia Hale's claws, which allowed him to talk to his mother, who informed him that the Hales not only lived in Beacon Hills, but they protected it as well. Because a werewolf gains their power from the full moon, full moons, and especially on supermoons, when the full moon is even closer to the earth than it normally is, are when they are at their strongest. However, this also means that their animal instincts and heightened aggression are at their peak as well, which makes them much more likely to lose control and harm or kill someone by accident. This makes werewolves vulnerable to exposure and also makes it easier for them to be captured and or killed by hunters, which is why hunters do the majority of their hunting on full moons, when werewolves are most likely to make a mistake. Due to the risk, most werewolves are trained to control themselves on a full moon, typically by using an anchor to help them remain connected to their humanity. An anchor can be a person, a relationship with a person, an emotion, an object, a mantra, or even just a werewolf's own sense of self. For example, Scott McCall's anchor was his relationship with Allison Argent until several months after they broke up, when his anchor became his own willpower. Derek and Peter Hale's anchors involved focusing on their anger, rage, and hate. Isaac Leahy's anchor is the memory of his father before he became abusive, and Liam Dunbar focuses on not transforming by distracting himself with music on his iPod, though his friendship with Mason Hewitt has also been shown to help him regain control. Werewolf packs may also have their own methods of training for their betas to maintain control over their lycanthropy. For example, Talia Hale used a sacred object to the Hale family, a Triskelion medallion, in combination with the mantra Alpha, Beta, Omega as a tool to help her daughter Laura gain control, and attempted to use it for Derek as well, with little success in the latter case. Similarly, Satomi Ido's pack recites a Buddhist mantra to help them stay human. 3 things cannot long be hidden: the sun, the moon, the truth. To them, the meaning of the truth is the fact that werewolves themselves are inherently violent creatures, and that they must remember this truth in order to keep themselves under control to prevent unnecessary violence against others. Until werewolves gain full control of their transformations on full moons using their anchors, they are typically restrained in some way to prevent them from running wild and attacking people. Ideally, this involves locking the wolf in a secured room, like a boiler room, which has a strong enough construction to withstand the werewolf's heightened strength, which has been even more enhanced by the moon's effects. Another method involves tying them up with large amounts of heavy chains, though this is still not always strong enough to keep a full moon crazed werewolf at bay, and is not ideal for long-term use. Werewolves who already had anger issues prior to being turned, such as Liam, who was diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder before being bitten by Scott, can also have a much harder time learning to control their shifts than the majority of werewolves, because a werewolf's anger is already heightened to begin with and is usually the trigger for an involuntary transformation. As a result, Liam took around 8 months to finally learn control over his shifting on full moons as a result of his pre-existing anger issues, while other shapeshifters such as Scott, Isaac, and Malia only needed 2 or 3 full moons to finally get a handle on it. Supermoons or full moons that are especially close to the earth only make werewolves even stronger and more bloodthirsty and aggressive than on normal full moons. They can feel the effects strongly even during the day when exposure to moonlight is at a minimum, increasing the amount of time during this moon phase that a werewolf must work to resist the moon's influence. Conversely, a lunar eclipse will suppress a werewolf's powers for the duration of the time when the moon is in the earth's umbral shadow, which usually lasts anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes. During this time, a werewolf will essentially be a human, making them vulnerable to hunters or anyone else who may try to take advantage of their lack of powers. Jennifer Blake, also known as the Duroc, attempted to use a lunar eclipse to kill Deucalion, a self-proclaimed demon wolf who ordinarily was far too strong even for her immense powers to defeat at the time, without the use of the lunar eclipse. The majority of werewolves belong to a pack due to being social creatures who also benefit from the additional power they gain from the support of their pack mates. However, even those werewolves who choose to remain alone still respect the werewolf hierarchy, which breaks all werewolves down into 3 different groups. Werewolves, despite what some people on YouTube will tell you, yes, that was a slight little jab at Teen Wolf News' ridiculously overcomplicated lore videos and blatant denial of things that were obviously showcased on screen, despite what he may believe to be fact and opinion, also have subclasses that, even though never officially given a canon name except for True Alpha, they do exist, and you'd be either ignorant or a complete fool to acknowledge that they don't. This is non-arguable. Omega werewolves, also known as lone wolves, are werewolves who do not belong to a pack. There are many reasons why a werewolf may not have a pack, such as being kicked out or abandoned by their former pack, being the sole survivor of a pack who had long been killed by hunters or other supernaturals, or in rare cases, having chosen solitude over the security of a pack. Because werewolves are naturally drawn to be in packs due to the additional power they gain from it, Omega werewolves are known to be the weakest and are extremely vulnerable to hunters and other creatures. In some rare instances, such as with Ethan and Aiden, Omegas will technically run with a pack without fully being a beta in one. Ethan once described their status in their first pack as being the bitches, as in the wolves who are the last to eat and who are always at the mercy of the betas and alphas above them. However, aside from being nomadic and solitary creatures, Omegas are physically indistinguishable from beta werewolves. They will still have either gold or blue eyes, and on rare occasions, alpha red eyes, and will still have the same general werewolf form as any other lycanthrope. Since an Omega is a lone wolf, any alpha without a pack could technically be considered an Omega, but would certainly be more powerful due to their additional beta spark. Beta werewolves are werewolves who belong to a pack and who are one rank below an alpha werewolf. Betas are usually loyal to their alphas and to each other and will defer to their alpha's judgment in most cases, though there have been instances when a beta has risen to the occasion and defied their alpha's orders, sometimes even going so far as killing their alpha due to a lack of confidence in their leadership or out of thirst for power. Beta werewolves possess the same supernatural abilities and characteristics of the average werewolf, including pronounced brows, pointed ears, sideburns, fangs, and claws. However, beta werewolves' eyes can either be one of 2 colors, gold or blue. Betas with blue eyes are believed to be werewolves who have taken an innocent human life, whereas betas with gold eyes have not. The strength level of a beta's powers can vary as well. Some betas, such as Liam Dunbar, who have intermittent explosive disorder, being much more physically stronger than their peers due to channeling their anger into augmenting their raw strength. Alphas are physically the strongest of the werewolf species and are typically the leaders of their respective packs. Alphas are distinguishable by their glowing crimson red eyes, and their abilities are exceptionally greater than those of most betas and omegas. Not only do they possess immense individual power, but they also draw on the shapeshifters in their packs as well, giving them additional strength with every beta they turn or have joined their pack. In addition, there are many different kinds of alphas who take various forms, which I'm going to be talking about in our little bit in our outline and sourced in the Argent Bestiary that was released at 2014 San Diego Comic-Con and the season 4 DVD set, which I finally acquired in early summer 2024 and can personally attest to being a fact, which is what I was referring to at the beginning of this section with the whole sub-classification thing. Werewolves can gain the rank of alpha in several different ways, including by inheritance, by killing another alpha and stealing their powers, which is one of the most common methods, or in extremely rare cases by ascending due to their sheer force of will, which I'll cover later when I get to sub-classifications with true alphas. It has also been implied that it is possible for werewolves to be voluntarily given someone else's alpha powers as well, though how this is done has yet to be revealed, and as of now and more than likely moving forward, as we will possibly never get any further confirmation or any future confirmation on how this works or if it is actually a thing. Alphas are the only werewolves who can turn a human into a werewolf via a bite or a deep scratch, and they also have the ability to use their alpha roar to force betas and omegas into submission or to motivate them. For example, Scott used his roar to allow Isaac to remove a trap on his foot, and a second time to help Liam resist the electric shocks of the Icon House orderlies. The injuries they inflict on lower ranking werewolves take much longer to heal than a normal wound would because of the additional power they possess. Shape-shifting wise, an alpha can either assume the form of what is typically a description of a lycanthrope, a large bipedal wolf with human-like qualities, or in rare cases, the actual form of a wolf. However, the latter and the large bipedal wolf form, as seen with Sebastian Vallet and possibly Peter Hale, is not always limited to alphas or even real werewolves. For example, Derek Hale evolved to full shift into a wolf despite being a beta in Smoke and Mirrors, and Theo Rakin, the Dread Doctor's first Chimera, was able to shift into a full wolf due to the combination of both his werewolf and were-coyote genes despite not even being truly supernatural. An augmented alpha, a nickname originating from myself and used all across the fandom now, even on the wiki, as discovered, explained by Deucalion, and seen in flashbacks, is when an alpha kills a beta that's part of its pack. That alpha is able to absorb their power and add it onto his or her own power, amplifying their powers and abilities to even stronger levels. This is a confirmed addition to their power, not multiplier. The only known augmented alphas in the series that we've seen on screen were Ennis, Kali, Derek Hale, briefly after being forced to kill Boyd, and Deucalion. Exclusive to Ethan and Aiden, the fused alpha, nicknamed Voltron Wolf by the fandom, is an extremely powerful fusion of two twin werewolves, both non-alpha and alpha, since Ethan explains they were able to fuse prior to becoming alphas, and that Deucalion helped them learn how to control the form before they would go on to kill all of their fellow betas, saving their alpha for last. Of all the members of the alpha pack, Ethan and Aiden are the only ones to not be augmented, though their fused form is still the second strongest werewolf of the pack underneath Deucalion, as even Peter Hale, who had his own monstrous form in season 1, was terrified at the prospect of fighting them in their fused state. Evolved werewolves are a supernatural subspecies of werewolf that can turn into an actual wolf. The ability to turn into an actual wolf is a very rare and hard shape-shifting skill for werewolves. Regular werewolves have immense respect for evolved werewolves, and an evolved werewolf sometimes acts as an advisor for werewolf packs, as shown with Talia Hale. An evolved werewolf can still take the normal lycanthrope form that is a human-wolf hybrid, but it is less powerful and was still powerful enough to kill a berserker with ease, as seen with Derek Hale, than the natural wolf form. The natural wolf form was still strong enough to almost one-shot and kill a were-jaguar. The full wolf form is a lot stronger than the normal. When an evolved werewolf turns into a true wolf, it is way faster than a regular werewolf. This is because their full wolf form has 4 legs. So far on screen, this status, emphasis on status and not any specific werewolf of werewolf, is the most powerful, as Derek surpassed that of even true alpha Scott McCall's power for a certain amount of time. I do think Scott got back up in power and surpassed Derek later on in the franchise, but that's up to fan speculation at this point, as that was never confirmed to be true or not. True Alpha describes the method by which a werewolf can attain the status of alpha werewolf without having to kill and take the status or inherit the status from another alpha. According to Dr. Deaton, the process by which a werewolf rises in status to alpha due to their own willpower and strength of character is rare. According to Teen Wolf creator Jeff Davis, the term true alpha only applies to how one attains the status of an alpha this way. They can't lose the status unless they die or choose to give it up to heal someone. I personally disagree with Jeff Davis because his statement is a contradiction to what was seen on screen in the show. As seen with these next few statements, it is clearly abundant that true alpha is absolutely a rank and not just a method of attaining alpha status, as there are unique quirks that only true alpha werewolves possess. The only residual quirk of the true alpha method is that your status cannot be taken except by a beta that you create. In the case of Scott McCall, he has 2 bitten betas that could possibly take his status. In Teen Wolf the movie, Derek's eyes shifted from blue to red as he died saving everyone from the Nogitsune. This confirms that taking a life, as Derek did, doesn't disqualify one from rising to alpha status in this way. So far, the only known true alphas in the franchise seen on screen in the show and the film are Scott McCall and Derek Hale. The final type of werewolf subclass to be introduced in the franchise, this is the type of true alpha Derek Hale became right before his death at the end of Teen Wolf the movie. An evolved true alpha is when a beta evolved werewolf using the method of attaining true alpha rank evolves into an alpha using the sheer force of their own willpower and strength of character. Even though we don't have any on-screen feats or display of its power, and we most likely never will, it can be assumed that Derek's monstrous strength was amplified greatly with the exclusive perks that being a true alpha provides, all of the power of a regular alpha with the exclusive rules and or abilities. We can and should assume that this is the new king for the most powerful werewolf rank in the franchise, as Scott McCall has never been able to reach this rank and or level of power and never will. Sebastian Vallet, who was the Beast of Gévaudan, referred to himself as a demon wolf, claiming that drinking rainwater from a wolf's paw print in the woods of what is now Montreal, Canada, is what gave him his powers. Whether the term is accurate or not is irrelevant, as the beast itself has demonstrated that even in the past, it was not the average or typical werewolf in the least. The sole similarity Sebastian had to regular werewolves was the ability to partially shapeshift their features into that of a lycanthrope, in his case with glowing pure blue eyes, indicating that he has taken numerous innocent human life, retractable fangs and claws, along with the physical powers of super strength, speed, agility and or reflexes, durability and accelerated healing. He also implied that he was immortal and unable to be killed with conventional weapons, which was proven true later on in season 5 in the modern day when he was resurrected by way of being resurrected through Mason, though this may solely be because he originated in the 18th century when weaponry was not as sophisticated, which is a plausible reason for his immortality theory to not be true, and it most likely isn't, as you know, we've never really gotten confirmation or not as every single modern weapon he's immune to. I'm pretty sure he can be blown up by an RPG, so yeah, we don't really have any concrete fact on that, and I'm sure we probably never will. It was later revealed that there was at least one object that could kill him, a pike whose steel tip was mixed with wolfsbane and mountain ash before it was forged with the blood of his sister, Marie-Jeanne Vallet, under the light of a full moon. Otherwise, his shape-shifting abilities are completely unique to him. Instead of transforming his body into a partially or fully lupine form, he summons shadows from the earth and wraps them around himself until he has grown into a 9-foot tall, enormous, muscular, beast-like werewolf with red veins protruding from his skin and bone-like spikes coming from his elbows and knuckles. Personally, my theory and headcanon is that Sebastian is just a regular Omega, albeit an exception to the rule power-wise, as he is clearly seen on screen to still be the most powerful werewolf in the franchise. This is going to be a definitive statement to end this ridiculous notion of demon wolves existing in this franchise. There is no such thing as a demon wolf. It is just hyperbole and Deucalion and Sebastian hyping themselves up by giving themselves nicknames due to them being egomaniacs driven by power. Nothing more, nothing less. A werewolf possesses a number of physical and passive powers, the strength of which are generally based on their rank, though it can also be influenced by other factors. In terms of hierarchy, alpha werewolves are the strongest, followed by betas, and then omegas at the weakest end of the spectrum. An alpha werewolf also typically possesses additional powers not seen in the lower rankings. Werewolves possess superhuman levels of strength that allows them to lift considerable weights and exert greater force. Werewolves are strong enough to easily overpower, lift, and throw grown men across a room. They can exert enough force to break through chains and deadbolt locks, and punch through brick and marble walls. Werewolves have been seen using their strength to snap a person's neck with one hand, flip overturned vehicles back on their wheels, and bend rebar with their bare hands to use as weapons. Werewolves can run and move much faster than even the most athletic human beings, being able to outpace land animals and keep up with vehicles such as motorcycles that are driving at top speeds. Werewolves are able to suddenly appear and disappear from sight and cover terrains in minutes that would take humans hours to cover on foot. They can also run on all fours, hands and feet in both human and werewolf form. Werewolves possess supernaturally enhanced reflexes, agility, and bodily coordination that allows them to leap very high and across large distances, jump from several stories up and land lightly on their feet, and perform a multitude of acrobatic, gymnastic, and martial arts feats such as flips, handsprings, and spinning kicks. They also process moving objects much better than humans can, allowing them to catch projectiles in mid-air and effectively dodge gunfire. Werewolves are naturally and instinctively athletic. Even newly turned werewolves have been seen performing impressive gymnastics routines with no training. Werewolves, like their wolf counterparts, have extremely keen senses of sight, hearing, and smell. They can see in complete darkness and across large distances with great clarity, track scents for up to several miles, and can hear high and low frequencies with greater clarity and across greater distances. A werewolf's hearing can be used to detect a person's heartbeat, usually to tell if someone is lying, as well as hear whispered conversations across great distances and from the outside of buildings. Using their sense of smell, werewolves can interpret the chemo signals that indicate identity and emotional states, a skill with practice that can be developed to the point of a supernatural sense of empathy. It has also been revealed that werewolves can even sense sexual desire through scent. These abilities help werewolves run and fight at night or in the dark, hear approaching enemies, or locate missing people by scent. A werewolf's glowing eyes can also be used to see mystical or supernatural phenomena that cannot be perceived by human eyes, such as the Nemeton or any given Nemeton or a kitsune's aura. Werewolves possess an extraordinary healing factor that allows them to heal from most mild to moderate wounds within minutes. They have been shown to quickly heal gunshots, stab wounds through the chest, abdomen, and extremities, and broken arms, legs, and spines, though most cannot that heal from a broken neck. While varying among different ranks of werewolves, broken bones can usually heal instantly after they've been reset, and depending on the severity, stab wounds and gunshots can usually resolve themselves in minutes to hours based on how deep the wounds are and whether or not the vital organs were damaged in the process. Werewolves are also immune to the majority of human illnesses and conditions such as colds, cancer, epilepsy, asthma, and other various illnesses and sicknesses and other various illnesses. For this reason, they are unable to experience the sensation of being high on drugs or drunk on alcohol, because the high is technically caused by the substance inflicting some kind of damage on the body. The werewolf can heal this damage faster than the effects can be felt, and the only toxic substances that werewolves are not immune to are wolfsbane, mistletoe, and the modified canine distemperament virus that was specifically designed to kill supernatural creatures. Werewolves are also vulnerable to the paralytic effects of canema venom, though with concentration, their accelerated healing ability will allow them to process through the toxin and overcome its effects much more quickly than a normal human. Because a werewolf's rapid cellular healing prevents them from contracting any human illness or condition as established before, and replaces aging cells at a constant rate, werewolves can experience prolonged youth and an extended lifespan. It is unknown what the average life expectancy of a werewolf is, but the oldest known werewolf to appear was Satomi Ido, an alpha werewolf over 110 years old, and maintains the physical appearance of a woman in her late 50s to early 60s. As a result, it can be assumed that werewolves could potentially survive decades into their hundreds so long as they are not injured or killed first. Werewolves have the ability to shift their features into that of a partially lupine form, which involves glowing eyes, fangs, claws, a rigid brow, pointed ears, and large sideburns as established all throughout this video. The presence of the full moon as well as intense emotions will compel werewolves to shift. However, with practice, as once again established earlier in the video, werewolves can learn to control the transformation and only shift a few selective features as needed, such as only extending their claws and fangs or simply making their eyes glow to enhance their eyesight or display their supernatural nature. Some werewolves, typically alphas, though occasionally betas and omegas as well, can shapeshift into more animalistic forms, such as transforming into a full wolf or into a more bestial humanoid form. Werewolves have the ability to absorb pain from animals, humans, and other creatures through tactile contact. This is usually done by touching the person who is in pain or the injured body part and drawing the pain into themselves, which manifests as the werewolf's veins darkening as their body processes it. Initially, a werewolf can only essentially take the edge off of a person's pain level, but with practice, they can eventually learn to take it completely. While all werewolves technically have the ability to perform the memory sharing ritual, it is most commonly performed by alphas due to the level of control and practice required to avoid harm or death towards the target. Werewolves perform this ritual by using their claws to penetrate the back of a person's neck, as established earlier in the video. This seems to bridge a connection between the werewolf and the affected person's memories, allowing the werewolf to view that person's memories, share their own memories, even suppress, implant, or remove memories entirely. Werewolves are apex predators, and as such, they can assert dominance over other woodland or domestic animals such as dogs, cats, and deer. They can use this ability to force them to be quiet or leave the area, or to stand down if they are acting aggressively. As a result, these animals can often be frightened by the presence of werewolves, and they also have natural animal instincts that allow them to think as true animals do, though some werewolves are more in tune with these instincts than others. Alpha twins have shown the ability to merge into one super wolf. However, this ability was unique to the twins themselves, as no other alpha had or has this ability. Alpha werewolves can perform a ritual to heal others, but at the cost of losing the spark of power that makes them alphas to begin with, demoting them back to beta or omega status. Alphas have the ability to turn regular humans into werewolves by biting them, or in some rare cases by scratching them very deeply with their claws. However, However, this transformation is not always successful, and depending on the condition of the human, there is a risk that they could die instead of becoming a werewolf. It is also possible that an alpha bite or scratch can cause a human to turn into a different kind of creature, as established at the very beginning of the video, such as a Kanima or a were-jaguar, as seen with Jackson and with Kate. When an alpha kills a beta that's part of its pack, that alpha is able to absorb their power and add it on to his or her own power, amplifying their powers and abilities to even stronger levels. Alphas have the ability to roar so powerfully that they can scare away weaker creatures and force betas and omegas to submit, to transform into their werewolf forms, or to return into their human forms. This roar can also empower the members of their pack, allowing them to fight through torture, serious injuries, or other painful experiences enough to access their powers, which are often weakened or inaccessible when the werewolf is in extreme pain. This was demonstrated when Scott's roar allowed Isaac to transform enough to break the coyote trap on his ankle and allowed Liam to fight through the taser he was being injured with to defeat the Icon House orderlies attacking him. Alphas possess a mystical energy that causes injuries they inflict on lower ranking supernatural creatures with accelerated healing abilities to take much longer to heal than a normal wound would. Werewolves possess a number of weaknesses which can be exploited by hunters, humans, and other creatures alike. Wolfsbane, also known as aconite, is an extremely toxic herb for werewolves, though different strains have different effects. Most forms of wolfsbane will either kill a werewolf if the infection it causes reaches their heart, though there are ways of expelling the herb from their bodies, such as ingesting ashes of the strain in question, literally burning the wolfsbane infected wound, or surgically exorcising the vapor from their chest. Werewolves are incredibly vulnerable to electricity, which for unknown reasons seems to interfere with the nature of their abilities. For this reason, hunters have been known to use cattle prod tasers to incapacitate wolves in order to capture them, and will hook them up to car batteries with electrical wires in order to torture them. Lower voltages will simply prevent a wolf from transforming or healing, while higher voltages can easily knock out or either kill a werewolf. Lotharia vulpina, a species of lichen known as wolf lichen, is a neon green moss that has been used for centuries to poison wolves, foxes, and coyotes by mixing it in with their food. Though this lichen does not appear to be fatal to werewolves, were-coyotes, or kitsune, it does seem to weaken them considerably for several days until it wears off. In season 4, episode 7, an assassin in the Deadpool named the Chemist invented a modified version of the canine distemperament virus that can weaken and kill werewolves. Those who are exposed to the virus will begin to sweat before slowly losing control over their transformations, either because they can't transform into a werewolf or because they can't transform back from the werewolf form into their human one. It then starts to cause them to begin bleeding black blood from their noses, ears, mouths, and nail beds, and to develop dark veins around their eyes, mouth, and temples. From there, the werewolf is then stricken completely blind, after which point they will only have minutes to live. Fortunately, it has been discovered that ingesting wild purple reishi mushrooms are both a cure and a vaccine for this virus. Though being a werewolf is considered a gift in the supernatural community due to the increased strength, speed, durability, and stamina and healing that it provides, it also comes with a very steep price, which is that the werewolf becomes extremely feral, bloodthirsty, and easy to anger on the full moon when they are at the height of their power. For this reason, werewolves must be trained to control themselves on full moons in order to prevent harm and exposure to bystanders and to avoid the wrath of the werewolf hunters who patrol wooded areas during the nights of the full moon for just such a loss of control. The transformation into a wolf can be easily triggered by intense emotions such as anger, fear, stress, or any other sensation that increases the heart rate, which, especially for newly bitten werewolves, puts them at risk of losing control and can result in harm to innocent civilians, exposure to the human world, and can also put the werewolf at risk of being killed by a hunter as punishment for anything they did while transformed. Because of a werewolf's very heightened sense of hearing, they can be incapacitated by noises at extremely loud decibels, as well as sounds at ultrasonic and subsonic frequencies. frequencies. Examples of the former cases would be a banshee scream or a microphone feedback, and examples of the latter would be the ultrasonic emitters used by the Argent hunters to disorient and lure a werewolf into a trap, or the subsonic music used by the Deadpool assassins that made Liam, Malia, and Scott behave as though they were drunk. During the phase of a lunar eclipse where the moon is completely covered by the Earth's umbral shadow, werewolves will be cut off from the source of their powers and will be subsequently reverted to the state of a normal human for the duration. Though this phase typically only lasts between 10 to 20 minutes, it still has a very vulnerable period for werewolves, which makes it an excellent opportunity for hunters and less powerful supernatural creatures to attack, as a werewolf will be unable to access their enhanced strength, shape-shifting, and healing abilities. Rowan wood, or the ashes that result from burning it, also known as mountain ash, are effective barriers against the supernatural, including werewolves. If a building is surrounded by rowan or mountain ash in an unbroken circle, a werewolf will be unable to enter it, nor will they be able to leave it if they are in the building when the circle was created. For this reason, many druids, banshees, chimeras, and other humans who are in the know and can safely handle mountain ash to use it in order to protect themselves or to create traps for werewolves and other supernatural creatures. And that is the complete definitive guide on everything you would ever need to know about the werewolves from MTV's Teen Wolf. This should forever be the only video you ever need to watch to gain all the information you would ever need to know on the werewolves from this verse. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. This script full of all the information I needed to present today was nearly 20 pages long, so I appreciate you watching till the end. Make sure you subscribe if you're new and set notifications to all. I'm Jade, and I will see you in the next episode. Until next time, thanks for stopping by, and I will see you the next time you decide to visit Beacon Hills.